Hi again then guys, and welcome to episode 3 of Import Nights, the review series for GranTurismo's selection of Japanese JDM import performance cars. And in this particular pick we're featuring one of my personal favourite cars in this category. I love the RX-7 overall. I like every generation of RX-7, the FD being my favourite overall. But there is one very particular reason why I really like this model, which is of course the FC RX-7, and that is the practicality, because the RX-7 is strictly speaking a pure sports car, and that is one of the differences between the RX-7 to stuff like the Supra and the Skyline. Technically the RX-7 is actually closer to the NSX in that regard. It's a pure two-seater focused sports car, whereas the Supra and especially the Skyline offer much more practicality with their overall package, what with 4 seats, a larger trunk, etc. The FC RX-7 though is actually the most practical RX-7 of them all, because it's the only RX-7, to my knowledge at least, to be available as a 4-seater. Now the rear seats aren't all that large of course, but the fact that there are rear seats at all makes me like it even more, because I love cars that combine genuine practicality with performance, and this RX-7 does that arguably better than any other. Now as far as its visuals, it's very clearly a car of its age. It has dated very much so. It still looks fantastic, but it's very clearly an older car. It has pop-up headlights, which was a trademark of the RX-7 even up till the end of production, which is pretty cool. Not many cars featured that in such a modern time. And of course, being an RX-7, it's powered by Mazda's iconic rotary engine. Now it works out to roughly 1.3 litres, although there's no accurate way of working out a rotary engine capacity, and it is, as you'd expect, turbocharged. Now this particular model that I'm featuring for the series is the GT6, and this is the premium FC RX-7. Now this car puts out 486 horsepower, 367 foot-pounds of torque, and only weighs 1,047 kilos, so not that much more than a tonne. Thanks to that, it puts out 464 horsepower per tonne. Given that it doesn't have a huge amount of power to work with, that's a really good level to be at. As far as PP, it's actually quite reasonable, 534, not too high, certainly not too low. And as far as price, it costs a fraction under 25 grand, so the value for money as far as I'm concerned on this car is fantastic. Now in terms of straight line performance, it's pretty good. It can do around 230, 235 without NOS or slipstream. If you get slipstream and nitrous of course, you can go well beyond that. You can get it up around 300 in fact, which is remarkable for its power. Completely unrealistic of course, but fun nonetheless. But one of the great things about the RX-7 overall is that it's not just a straight line machine. It's a very good machine as an all-rounder. You can build the RX-7 to be exactly what you need it to be. Despite not having a huge amount of power, it makes a fantastic drag car, it can make a superb circuit racer, and also one of the best drifters you can get. So the beauty of the RX-7, and not just the FC but all of them, is that it's just so good at whatever you need it to do, especially for the price. And the fact that it has far less than 500 horsepower just adds to how useful it can be. It's all well and good having 1,000 or more horsepower in a car, but if you're in a restricted race or a restricted lobby, you can't use that power. So having that kind of performance at a much lower horsepower level, like vehicles such as the light car company Rocket also do, makes it much more usable and much more competitive in comparison to the spec that it has to work with. Now as far as how it relates overall to the RX-7 range, the FC is of course the oldest RX-7 that we currently have on the game. I'm a huge fan of the first generation RX-7 as well. We don't currently have that though, which is kind of surprising to me given that it's a Japanese game. But for now we have the FC and the FD with some variations in each. Now this is not strictly speaking the most powerful or fastest FC RX-7 you can buy. all of them are very quick, and there is at least one other model with more power when fully tuned. However, this is my personal favourite version of the FC for the obvious reason that it's a premium. You get the upgradable bodywork, much better visuals inside and out, and it's just a more quality feeling vehicle than one of the empty GranTurismo 4 plugins that all the others feel like. Now, in terms of how it compares to the FD, it's a slightly different machine. I would say that the FC is perhaps a slightly better track car than the FD, because the FD feels more playful, it's more tail happy, whereas the FC is much more focused when you need it to be. Not necessarily quite as quick in a straight line, but fantastic handling, great drivability, and it certainly feels very light, despite not necessarily being that small a car. And as far as small details go, not particularly a relevant one, but a detail nonetheless, I really like that the FC RX-7 has that slightly offset bonnet scoop, because I'm a huge fan of cars that have asymmetrical designs, something that's a little bit different on one side to the other. I like that. The Subaru and Impreza and vehicles like that, of course, have that dead centre bonnet scoop, which is what you'd expect it to be. The Mazda just has it set off a little bit, and I like that. It makes it look a little bit more unique. Overall, it has a similar kind of shape to something like a Porsche 944, similar shape, similar pop-up headlight arrangement, but overall, if you're looking for the absolute best JDM car, maybe not an FC RX-7, not in its GranTurismo 6 tune anyway, but if you're looking for a Japanese performance car that's great for drifting, drag, top speed, circuit racing, rallying even, then you should definitely check out the FC RX-7. But that's it overall for this particular episode. I'll see you guys next time, and as always, thanks for watching.